You are watching The Horizon, the voice of the Amba woman, exclusively.
Mutumbu, mama yo, na ya boy go get her. Blue Jay Brothers. Mama you kind, mama you're beautiful, mama you good, mama you're wonderful. No woman like you, mama. No woman like you, mama. Thank God for you, mama. Thank God for you, mama. 'Cause you gave me life, oh mama. Queen of my life, oh mama. I go love you for life, oh mama. 'Cause you love me so, oh mama. From small begin, I never forget all the suffer when you suffer for me. Oh yeah, yeah. All the pain and the troubles where I pull you through. I remember when money no be there and chop no be there for her. You be the try your best. You go run around to find us something where we go chop. When I dey sick, you know the sleep. You go the cry all night. You go hold me tight, start to pray, say God make you help my oh Lord. Ooh, I wo ye ye choma. Afunga na bere ye funga choma. Amba na bere ye amba choma. Enga na chinyu ye ga choma. Mama, I wo ye ye choma. Afunga na bere ye funga choma. Amba na bere ye amba choma. Enga na chinyu ye ga choma. Ye ga choma, mama. Enga na chinyu ye ga choma. Chinyu ye ga choma. Oh, you gave me life, oh mama. Queen of my life, oh mama. I will love you for life, oh mama. 'Cause you love me so, oh mama. Ale mama, selelelele. Ale mama, selelelele. Ale mama, shekelelelele. Ale mama, you're my motivation. You gave me the best education, mama. The song where I sing, I'm for you. Now it's special dedication to you. Oh yeah. I know say every night and day you pray say make a mama. The God where you the pray, I'm for heaven. Don't give me this inspiration, mama. The song where I sing, I'm for you. Now to show my appreciation to you. Ubi ya wo ye ye choma. Afunga na bere ye funga choma. Amba na bere ye amba choma. Enga na chinum ye ga choma. Mama wo ye ye choma. Afunga na bere ye funga choma. Amba na bere ye amba choma. Enga na chinum ye ga choma. Chinum ye ga choma. Chinum ye ga choma. Ye ga choma. You gave me life, oh mama. Queen of my life, queen of my life. I will love you for life. I will love you for life. 'Cause you love me so, oh mama. You gave me life, mama. Queen of my life, mama. I will love you for life, oh mama. 'Cause you love me so, oh mama. Selelelele. Ale mama, selelelele. Ale mama, selelelele. Ale mama, shekelelele. Ale mama, selelelele. Ale mama, selelelele. Ale mama, selelelele. Ale mama, selelelele. Ale mama. Oh, that's so. That's so. Mother's Day. That's so.
Hello, good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Good afternoon, good evening, fellow Amazonians. Welcome to the Horizons. This is the voice of the Amazonian woman. Today, Friday the 10th, we'll be discussing the aid, the Amazonian independent youth. We'll talk about the plebiscite that 11th February supposedly represents, and would also have Barrister Ghana, who will be giving us details and views and articulating what that means for Amazonians and why it is not for us. So this is on the eve of the 11th February, and we also know today is lockdown, and we thank all people at home front for respecting that. Also, we have the Secretary of State for Women's Services, my patients, and she also be talking on some of the initiatives of the women department, what they have been doing so far, especially their recent outreach. And now we'll discuss many other things to keep the hope until restoration. Share as you join us and participate and ask your questions as we go. Thanks for joining once again. Okay, yeah, we have my patients. She's here, she's joining us, and Barrister Gada will be joining also shortly. My patients, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Lady Casey. Thank you, viewers from the home front, uh, ground one, all over the diaspora. It's great to be here on the horizon, the voice of the Amber woman. As Lady Casey said, we're staying the course. We're staying the course because we know that we deserve our land, to rule our land, to build a future for our children. So we're staying the course. And really thank the home front for respecting lockdown today and lockdown tomorrow. And we thank Barrister Ghana for coming, that he will be coming to tell you exactly why you're doing that. Thank you for having me, Lady Casey.
Yeah, very welcome. And while we wait on Barrister Ghana to join us, we'll quickly dive into the show. And before we talk about the recently launched aid, Amazonia Independent Dues, we would talk about the women outreach, the most recent outreach that the women did. And we would like you to give us, some of these great outreaches that he did and the impact that he made in the lives that it touches. So, Mafe, over to you.
Yes, thank you so much. So at the end of last year, 2023, we launched, well, towards the end of the year, we launched the Be an Angel fundraising drive. Uh, and that was really a job done by the department, the women of the IG. So the women of the IG went out to solicit funds from their contacts, their connections, and through all that, we were able to raise a little bit over $9,000. From that $9,000, we decided to uh, reach out for Christmas to uh, our prisoners of conscience in Kundingi and also those in Bamenda. We reached out to some of the IDPs that are really living in the lion's den. We reached out to some of the wounded, yes, wounded from this war. We reached out to some war widows. But the largest outreach was made to our refugees in Nigeria. Um, we also had some money reserved for some of our refugees in Ghana, and they will be receiving it maybe in a couple of weeks to execute. The money has already been sent through one of our facilitators, because at the time that we were doing this in December, we really didn't have the right contact. So making some inquiries. This a few days ago, I sent the money, about $500 to one of our contacts, and they will be getting a few of them, of course, will get some benefit from this outreach. The one that I really want to talk about while we wait for Barrister Ghana is the outreach to the refugees in Nigeria. So this outreach, we had a facilitator who is the CEO of a foundation called Save the Women's Foundation, and he, Mr. Z, was able to facilitate this for us, and it was done in three main ways. So the first major thing was food for some of the settlements. Mind you, we have so many settlements in Nigeria, so that not every single person was able to benefit from this outreach, but some did. So some of the two of the settlements were able to get food for Christmas, like Gary rice, Maggi cubes, some oil, to name a few items. And then the other part of the outreach was to our girls and young women in the form of sanitary pads, which we have some videos, but I don't think we even have time to share them here, because our program today is mainly for the barrister to come talk about the plebiscite. So I don't have videos available to share on the show. And then also, unless if the if the technician is able to put a couple of videos, that would be nice if he has a time. But if not, we will just proceed. The other thing that was done was soya bean milk production. So we have some children that are very young children, breastfeeding infants and breastfeeding mothers, where we were able to provide soya bean milk to this particular set of children that are probably predisposed to malnutrition. So we think we did fantastic. I mean, it could always be better. We are really hoping that those who are listening to us can support us more, so that in 2023, the outreach could even be bigger to our very embattled population in ground one and in the home front.
Well, thank you so much, my patients, for that, brief outreach. And this is, like you mentioned, that is the IG women that reached out, raised funds, and, support and help lives. Like our population, we know what is going on, we know what is happening, and the effort of the women is the effort of every Southern Cameroonian. That's the effort everyone should be doing. That's the least everyone should be doing, to reach out to someone, to give a lending hand to a child, to an orphan, to give a lending hand to women, pregnant women with no access to good medical care and, prenatal, care. There's so many of them are in ground one that, that can be reached out to. And this is just an example of the extraordinary work that the women have been doing. And Mape, thank you for heading that so excellently, so gracefully. I know it's not always easy working with complex characters like us Amazonian with Obasabi, but you are doing it with a smile all the time, and well done. And Barrister Ghana has now joined us. Barrister Ghana, you are highly, highly welcome to the Horizon, joining the women to talk about this very special um, events that took place that has almost blinded some Southern Cameroonians, and why respecting the lockdown is eminent for every Southern Cameroonian. You are very welcome, Barrister Ghana.
Thank you very much, comrade, and it's my honor to be here. It's an honor to be here also with Dr. Abiedu. Always a pleasure to do whatever it takes to move the cause of our freedom, to move our restoration quest as many steps further as possible.
Wow, thank you so much. I like that. Do whatever it takes. I was just saying that the women are doing the least, reaching out to our battered population, and you have just top it up with doing whatever it takes. And that's the attitude, and that's why the women are staying the course, and that's just so in line. Whatever it takes, the women are staying the course. And thank you for joining us, and thank you for creating the time in such a busy schedule to to participate. And we were just starting to talk about some of the works the women have been doing, and now you join us. We are going into the core discussion of the day, and which is the plebiscite, which is and also associated with 11th February. And our people started lockdown today, and tomorrow they'll continue, and they'll be doing so well with it. And where do you want to start to tell us how is this day um not good for Amazonia? What is it first of all? Because some people, I believe repetition is the best way to never forget, to learn to never forget. What is the plebiscite first of all, and how is it? How did it play out against our freedom?
Well, the first thing I'm going to say, and thanks to all the viewers who are watching, the first thing I want to say is that the plebiscite on 11th of February 1961 was a fraud on the British Southern Cameroons. So whatever we say on the air now, whatever we say in this show, that's one thing you need to keep in mind. The plebiscite on 11th of February 1961 was a fraud. Why do I say it was a fraud? First of all, let's define what a plebiscite was. A plebiscite was a vote to solicit the suggestion of the people, to solicit the suggestion of the people of the British Southern Cameroons, an independent entity in international law consistent with UN Resolution 1514, which came out December 15, 1960, many months before the plebiscite was held. And part of why the plebiscite was a fraud was that UN Resolution 1514 should have halted the plebiscite right there in its tracks. So the plebiscite was just a suggestion of the people of the state of the Southern Cameroons, because by the time we went to vote in the plebiscite, by the time the Decolonization Committee of the United Nations crafted UN Resolution 1608, or was crafting modalities towards the plebiscite that ultimately led to UN Resolution 1608, 1514 had already come out, a force in international law, which should have halted the plebiscite right dead in its tracks. But even if that fraud went forth, it needed to be signatored by the executive officer of the Southern Cameroons at that time, Dr. John Foncha, and voted on by the Southern Cameroons Parliament seated in Boya, because we were already a self-governing state at that time. Again, we have to throw back to 1953, when our people, led by our leaders, bolted out of the Eastern House of Assembly in Enugu, Nigeria. They did not bolt out of the Eastern House of Assembly in Enugu, Nigeria, to go have some decision whether to join La République du Cameroon or to join Nigeria. You have to keep that in mind. They bolted out of the Eastern House of Assembly, asking the British to set up their own self-governing state, which was set up in Boya, and they had the first elections in 1954, during which Dr. EML Endeli won and became the first premier. And in 1958, they held multi-party elections, which Dr. John Foncha won. So we did not leave Nigeria, and we did not bolt out of the Eastern House of Assembly to go seek options whether to join Nigeria, whether to go back to Egypt that we kept coming out of, or to or to jump into fire, which is what the font of Bafut aptly described to the visiting team of the British and Northern Ireland, that Nigeria is water, French Cameroon is fire, we want neither. We want an independent state. So again, I know I've answered more than the question you asked, but intentionally and purposefully so, because I want to set things straight coming out of the gates. The plebiscite was a fraud on our people. I hope I answered your question.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Thank you. Yes, that was really clear and well articulated. And that's what the fund actually said, that Nigeria is water and Cameroon and La République du Cameroon is fire. I mean, we can testify. There's so many reasons and so many examples, especially in the past 7 years, of what has been going on, that was saying that they are probably worse than fire. The fire is probably as much as hellfire. And just to continue the conversation, what are those who think, oh, that happened, that fraud that happened, and we have been on course, and we are still today asking our people to boycott such celebration or such activities, because obviously has put us in this hellfire. um, what would you say to those people at home front to inspire them to continue um, the lockdown?
By the way, I'm going to pedal a few steps back.
That's
I'm going
fine.
to pedal a few steps back and answer my question again why the plebiscite was a fraud. The leaders of the Southern Cameroons held a conference in Manfe in the summer of 1959, when the United Nations decolonization process was soliciting what choice they wanted to have, because they were already dabbling with the idea of a plebiscite so that the people can decide. But the leaders had to present the choice to the decolonization committee that the people of the Southern Cameroons want. And in that Manfred Conference of 1959, I think it was August, a vote was put amongst all the leaders of the Southern Cameroons. It was called an all-party conference. All the leaders were there. And the choice was, or the options towards the plebiscite was, do you want the question of the plebiscite to be a question between, listen very carefully, and all the audience should listen very carefully. This is very instructive and this is very key. Do you want the question in the plebiscite to be a question of either joining Nigeria or being independent? Or two, do you want the question to be a question of joining Nigeria or joining French Cameroon? By an over 67% majority, the leaders during the Manfe all-party conference voted that the choice at the plebiscite should be a choice between joining Nigeria as a separate region in Nigeria or being independent. So when we went to the plebiscite on 11 February 1961, the choice should have never been between joining Nigeria or French Cameroon. That option was already defeated in the Manfe conference. And that is what the UN decolonization committee sought. And that choice was passed up to the United Nations. What kind of scheming occurred in the decolonization committee to now bring the question as one between joining French Cameroon and joining Nigeria? I don't want to say only God knows. I would preferably say only Satan knows, because it was a choice from hell, and it was a choice that was not based on the authority of the people of the Southern Cameroon. So I wanted to clarify that and emphasize that. Now I want to say something again based on that. That it wasn't just a fraud on the people of Southern Cameroon. You see, it was a fraud also on the people of French Cameroon. And you want to ask me why? Because the bad decision of forcing the Southern Cameroons to be annexed by French Cameroon, because it led to annexation, it did not lead to union, has also kept French Cameroon down. How? They cannot even build democratic structures because they are so focused on holding Ambazonia down. We saw what happened to the journalist Zogo, somebody who is killed, decapitated, his genitals cut, his tongue cut, he's molested, he is sodomized. Hello? Those are the kind of choices which French Cameroon has invited on itself by trying to hold on to Ambazonia. We see ministers stealing so much money that they don't even know where to keep the money. We see two of their former secretary generals languishing in Kondongi. We see a nation, I'm talking about French Cameroon, that is listless. So that plebiscite was not just a fraud on Ambazonia, it was a fraud on French Cameroon. They might not yet have realized it. You go to visit Yaoundé, you see people that have built mansions, and immediately you're leaving from the mansions, there is a pile of stinking dirt right out of the gateway. I mean, talk about an upside down nation in which they cannot trace where the root of their malaise is from. And the root of their malaise is the scheming by France to have French Cameroon annex Ambazonia by proxy. And unless they realize that, they say, unless you realize the deepness of your disease, you will not come to the miracle of your healing. So that was a fraud that was perpetrated on French Cameroon, which when it will finally dawn on them, they will rise up to slaughter all those who have led them to that decision and have sustained that decision since 1961. Thank you.
Lady
Wow.
Casey?
Yes, you want to add something to that? You can go on.
I have a question really that has puzzled me. The UN Secretary General, Dag Dag Hammarskjöld, I never know how to say his last name, Dag Hammarskjöld.
Yes.
Yes. So he really, my understanding is that he really was not in support of the plebiscite. He thought that it was not going to be fair for the people of Southern Cameroons. Could you throw some light on that? I mean, why didn't they listen to him?
Because the decision had to come out of the decolonization committee. And Britain and France were in there scheming in the decolonization committee. So though Das Hammarskjöld, the US Secretary General, was against it, he even visited Boya and he visited Foncha. And Foncha was against it as well. The Southern Cameroon's leaders were against it. They wrote to the UN, telling the UN that if the UN does not want to give them independence, I mean, if Britain does not want to give them independence, don't give them independence. Stay as the colonial master. But they don't want to have this thing of joining French Cameroon. And some people will say, oh, but you guys accepted, you went to the polls and voted, you still went to Yaoundé and took up positions. All of that garbage. That was a result of the manipulation of a people. They had already told you in 1953 by bolting out of the Eastern House of Assembly in Nigeria that they want to be their own state. They had already told you by conducting peaceful democratic elections, 1954, 1958, electing their leaders by telling you that they want to be a peaceful democratic state. They had already told you through the Manfred Conference of 1959 that they want to have that option to become an independent state. So whether through the scheming of events, people later went to Yaoundé. If you read the files of a journalist called Akwaya and the whole catastrophe of people transitioning to Yaoundé, you really see how our people went through misery. So Das Hammarskjöld, yes, was against that. Foncha, if you read the declassified cables, I went to law school, I went into the UN files, I read all of those files. I read the declassified cables that were being sent by the CIA through their office in Lagos. The CIA knew of all what was going on. Foncha was trying to get back to the UN because Hammarskjöld, the UN Secretary General at that time, had told Foncha that if the British do not want to support you if the British do not want to sustain this state, come back to me. I will see how the UN can provide funds to sustain this state, because this is actually a UN trust territory. What did Foncha do? Or what was Foncha trying to do? Foncha was trying to go back to the UN. And why didn't he make it, you might want to ask? Because he had to go through the British commissioner in Lagos, because we were being governed from Nigeria. So Foncha had to go through the British commissioner in Lagos to okay his travel, for him to travel to the UN. The British commissioner in Lagos blocked it. So our people were helpless. So don't ever listen to anybody tell you that our leaders voluntarily went into some sort of a bastardized and uncircumcised union. Never happened. We were annexed. We were colonized outrightly. And if you read the words of the Gaulish Frenchman in his own book, Pierre Mesmer, if you read his book titled Le Blanc Sang Vong, on page 135, he says it. He says, but in soft and apparent annexation, or however that sounds in French. My French is not that good. But in appearance, it was an annexation. That is what the French say. If the French are saying that they annexed us, we know they annexed us. I mean, so you ask again, how did things unfold? We were blocked front, left, right, and center from seeking our true alternatives.
Wow. Knowledge is a start. When
Lady
we act
Casey,
on it,
sorry, dear,
yeah,
before you continue, I have one question before you continue.
Mhm.
So, why plebiscite in the first place? When they were granting independence to other countries, why did the notion of plebiscite even come for our own case? Because are there other African countries that had that, were given that choice to have a plebiscite? Why us?
Some countries had a plebiscite. I cannot really remember exactly, but the words were worded differently. You have to realize that the loss of Germany in the Second World War, in the First World War, led to Germany's colonies being divvied between the colonial powers. The best thing that could have happened to Cameroon is if the United States had just taken the whole of Cameroon as a protectorate. That is water under the bridge. We cannot cry over spilled milk. In Togo, Togoland was split between Togo and Ghana. It was split not actually between Togo and Ghana. It was split between France and England, because France was the colonial master of Gold Coast, what Ghana was then called, and the part of Togo that was given to France, the eastern part of Togo. So the western part remained from 1919 as part of Ghana, but because Ghana just administered them as one people. Again, their cultural ties are similar, their language was similar. So if you ask a lot of Ghanaians today, they will not even remember that Western Ghana used to be part of German Togoland. So there were some plebiscites that were done, but in our case, it was basically a scheming in the decolonization committee. And if you read the wordings of the decolonization committee that came after the plebiscite, and again, just to say something, Britain was supposed to seek to meet with the French and French Cameroon. So Foncha was trying to seek for the British and the French to have this meeting, first of all, to decide what the question on the plebiscite was going to be. And Foncha finally had a meeting with Amadou Ahidjo. And they decided that the words on the plebiscite, or what they were intending to craft, the union they were intending to craft, was going to be called the Federal United Republic of Cameroon, with a lot of local powers left to the state of Southern Cameroon. So get this in mind. The state was supposed to be called the Federal United Republic of Cameroon. Now they have the plebiscite, and then they go back into the decolonization committee to craft the language of what the state was going to be called. Now, France is scheming in the decolonization committee to take the word federal out. So this thing already started right in the decolonization committee in 1961. And then France, the members of the decolonization committee also wanted to assign lawyers to advise the Southern Cameroons of their rights consistent with international law so that they would not be misled. Because you have to remember that people like Foncha, people like Muna, these were glorified grade 2 teachers. They did not have the kind of sophistication that we have this day. France and Britain connived in the decolonization committee to refuse lawyers being assigned to the Southern Cameroons to advise them of their rights in the process. And so,
Wow.
and that's why we say 11th of February is a fraud. I'm just gonna tell you something. While I was back in Cameroon, because I was already conscious about all of this. In fact, I visited the house of John Good Funcher when I was 14 years old, and I met with John Good Funcher and his wife, and I was trying to learn from John Good Funcher, because when you're growing up, you're listening to these terms: Southern Cameroon, West Cameroon. Uh, uh, so you don't really know how did it transition from Southern Cameroons. How did it transition from British Cameroon to Southern Cameroon and then to West Cameroon? And then how did it become Federal Republic of Cameroon? And how did it then change into United? So you're growing up, you are living in a vacuum of information, and you're trying to figure things out. I don't know if it was a spirit that led me. I went to John Good Funcher's house in 19 sometime around 1984 or so. I visited him. I posed a few questions to both him and his wife, and he was very candid. He answered a lot of my questions. I visited the palace of Fon Goji Dinka in Widikum. You know, I was foraging for knowledge to learn about our history, to learn about what is it that caused our people to evolve into staying in this bondage that we are in. Hello. So if you really study our history, you will realize that 11th of February was a fraud. And something that I started to say, then I got deviated. On 11th of February 1990, I was sitting in our living room in Bamenda with my late father. And we're watching Nelson Mandela stroll out of Victor Verster prison in South Africa. Because that was the day that Nelson Mandela was released out of jail, 11th February 1960. And 11th of February 1990. And I turned around and I told my dad, and my dad was a very wise man, one of the wisest people I've ever seen. I turned around and I told him, I said, look, South Africa within 10 years is going to transition to black majority rule through democracy. And my dad, again, belonging to that old generation, was kind of hesitant. Do you think the whites have been there for so many hundred years? They are nuclear power, all of that. Do you think they are going to let go of power? But might doesn't make right. And Ambazonia is going to be free. We've studied our history. We understand the fraud that was perpetuated on our people. Us in the diaspora, call the FBI and let them know we will support the right of our people on the ground to defend themselves against genocidal killers in La Republic. Whatever we need to do to assert that right and to support them in their right of self-defense against La Republic, to support them in their right to reject colonialism, to support them in their right to reject annexation. We will do that by all means necessary. Thank you, comrade. Did I lose you?
Okay, I'm back. Thanks. I was talking. I realized you were not getting me. Thank you so much for
All right.
that great insight. Mafe, do you have any more follow-up questions for
No, my
Barrister?
dear, thank you.
He has just delved into it and you literally articulated it. And I was just watching the comments on Facebook, and it is amazing. Our viewers are following, and I was like, great insight and great knowledge, and I am so inspired that you just concluded on the point where I wanted to go next, that you would tell FBI that Amazonians will do whatever it takes to enable our people defend themselves from annexation and colonization. And that is exactly the next stage of this conversation that I want to take you to. We've had some comrades, being challenged for this same reason, for their participation, or supposed participation in, in our freedom. And I watched some of your previous appearances on ABC where you were talking about this thing. And just for those watching us today, me, I believe that it's not, we cannot talk about something once, and we've been talking about the importance of the interim government within the the struggle from the day it was created, and still yet till today some people still don't understand it, and we will keep talking about that. And I just want you to all just talk more on why Amazonians in the diaspora must and should be doing everything that it takes um, to continue enabling our people at home front for for self-defense.
By the way, I happen to live in Kansas City, where the trial is going to be taking place against our comrades. And I have been to all the hearings that we've held in court. And I was there, I think, about 3 weeks ago when Mr. Cheney Francis was being arraigned and when the charges against him were being read. And it was so perplexing. I was in court. And it was so perplexing. By the way, before I say this, I have all respect for FBI officials. They are doing a great job. I have my utmost respect for law enforcement. When law enforcement stops coming to your neighborhood, stops coming to your street, you're the one in trouble. So the law enforcement is there to do their jobs. And whatever the FBI is doing, the FBI is doing its job. As a trained lawyer in the United States, I understand that. But the FBI works within the rules and within the confines of the United States Constitution. The FBI works within the confines and within the restrictions of U.S. common and statutory law. So the FBI has to do their job, and we have to do our job as well to free Ambazonia. So I was in court when the FBI was presenting the case against Mr. Cheney Francis. And I have to tell you that the judge took 15 minutes to ask the FBI, okay, say, explain to me, what is the difference between Ukrainians in the United States raising funds to buy drones, to buy landmines, to buy tanks, to defend themselves against Russia, and these people who have seen videos, have seen horrendous genocidal acts of French Cameroon military? Why are we arresting and prosecuting them and not arresting Ukrainians as well? So yes, the FBI has done their job, and we have utmost respect for the forces of law in this country because we are a lawful people. However, we will be there to provide our defense. We will be there to say it's a right to support our people from being slaughtered by horrendous murderers. Just look at what they did to their own, the journalist Zogo in Yaoundé. Then you can extrapolate that 1,000,000 times and you know what they are doing to Ambazonians. Are we supposed to fold our hands and sing Kumbaya while the French Cameroon army gets into Ngabu, gets into Kwakwa, gets into Widikum, and fry young babies in the cauldron of boiling oil, and gets into Ngabu in the dark of the night and murder kids and burn them, and get into Bali and collect Ben Sikinas who are using their bikes just to make a living and slaughter them and burn their corpses. And that is happening all over Ambazonia, while the United States, while France, while Germany, while Britain, while the whole of EU, while the rest of the free world stays silent. Are we supposed to twiddle our hands? The answer is hell no. We'll support the right of our comrades to defend themselves and will seek to assert that right in the United States Federal Court of Law. Hello? So 11th February symbolizes that transition of us being bundled and sold into bondage. Our movement seeks to reverse that. And we are not the first. South Africa tried to do the same thing to Namibia. A nuclear power thought it could seize Namibia's rights to sovereignty. This is all about sovereignty. Who owns Ambazonian sovereignty? Comrade, do you know who Ambazonian sovereignty belongs to? It belongs to the Ambazonian people, because we have never treated it away, we've never signed it away, we have never sold it away, we have never been captured and had our sovereignty decapitated from us. So our sovereignty still resides with the Ambazonian people. So as we look at 11th February, and I started telling you how I was sitting in my living room on 11th February at about 11 o'clock in the morning, watching Mandela come out of prison. I never went to those celebrations while I was in Cameroon. Never. Some uncle gave me a CPDM shirt to wear and go march at 11th February. I threw that thing in my dorm room and I was using it to wipe my shoes. Trash. I, even as a teenager, as a student, never went to those 11th February celebrations because they are a fraud on us. And the sooner our people en masse recognize that and revolt against that, the quicker we will get to our freedom. Thank you.
Wow, thank you very much, Barrister Ghana. Thank you for that, well articulated and inspiration for any Amazonian within the diaspora living in any sort of um, fear about their involvement or participation in their own freedom,
And let me
and that
hyphenate
also.
that. Yes, let me hyphenate that. Sometimes when you say something, it's good for you to say it in a complete way. We as people who support restoration fighters, we should not engage in kidnapping. We should not engage in ransom taking. We should not engage in bringing duress to civilians. We have abundant evidence of French Cameroon troops coming into our localities and murdering our people. It's our right to support our people to defend themselves. And we can do that without involving ourselves in kidnapping or ransom taking, or without violating the laws of the United States. The FBI officials are going after this not because we are fighting to liberate our people. It's because in US law, and as a trained lawyer, I'm going to explain it to you on an intellectual level. I'm not explaining this as somebody's lawyer or somebody being my client. I'm explaining this at an intellectual level. You cannot bring harm to the relative of a United States citizen abroad. You cannot bring harm to either a US citizen or a relative of the United States abroad. You can neither bring harm to them nor bring harm to their property. If that is done, a case can rightfully be brought against you in US federal court. It is US federal court that has jurisdiction over matters like that. Let me tell you the flip side of that coin. All of these ministers, generals, officers of La République du Cameroon who are bringing harm to Ambazonians, we can bring suit against them in US federal court. And when they present themselves under US jurisdiction, they can be arrested. All of those Bias ministers who accompanied the diaper-wearing octogenarian to that event in Washington, D.C., some of them have bloodied hands. And if we had specific charges to bring against them, they can be arrested. So all of Bias ministers, and I'm talking to them because I know French Cameroon lackeys are listening, all of those Bias ministers who are contributing to bring harm to the relatives of United States citizens, to the relatives of Ambazonians who are United States citizens, we will bring charges against them. And they will face their day in U.S. courts under federal jurisdiction. Thank you.
Wow,
Lady
that's some
Casey?
useful information. Yes, you can go on with
Thank
what
you.
saying.
Yeah, that's useful information indeed. I want to read something and then I would like the barrister to react to it. I want to read something that I came across. Before I read it, I have to read a definition. It goes by saying what a nation is. So, a nation can be defined as any of the following: an aggregation of persons of the same ethnic family speaking the same language or cognate languages, occupying a definite territory and organized under one government, especially a sovereign government, or a body of people associated with a particular territory who are sufficiently conscious of their unity to seek or possess a government peculiarly their own. And then it says, under the Federal Republic of Cameroon, the two federated states of West Cameroon and East Cameroon jointly commemorated the following events. First, January 1 was celebrated as Independence Day, the day East Cameroon gained independence from France in 1960. Number two, 11 February has been celebrated since 1965. Although this day represents the day of the historic decision taken by Southern Cameroonians, the state of West Cameroon, during the United Nations organized plebiscite, the Francophone-led government of Cameroon has intentionally misrepresented the historical event and has imposed the commemoration of 11th February in honor of the National Youth Day. Number three, 1st October was celebrated as Unification Day, which signified the unification of the states of Southern Cameroon and the Republic of Cameroon in 1961. Let's now deal with the nation in question. As stated earlier, people cannot observe a national day without belonging to a particular nation. To which nations were these commemorative events dedicated to? So I gave that background and then I read that because we're talking about 11 February as a day that is celebrated. And then we talk about January 1st and then October 1st. So this is just to guide you to really answer this question or to talk more why we're two separate nations and we cannot really choose one day to celebrate that is common to both of us because we're two separate nations. Just want you to react to that.
Yes, we are two separate nations. But something that I would like to say to throw light on what you're saying is that of all the nations in the world, French Cameroon is one of the only nations that does not celebrate its Independence Day, January 1st, 1960. So they celebrate 11th February, a day of fraud, and then they celebrate 20th May, another day of fraud that changed their fake union of Federal Republic of Cameroon into their fake state of United Republic of Cameroon. So they are running away from the truth. They are running away from their own day of independence. The United States celebrates its Independence Day, July 4th. You can see the significance of it. France, July 14th. Every nation celebrates its day of emancipation as its Independence Day. French Cameroon is running away from its own day of emancipation. And the key that we have to understand here, because sometimes you have to look at things as they are rooted in law. We are two separate states. We are two separate nations. We are two separate entities in international law. And the highest organ of the United Nations on the African continent already ruled on that. It's called the Banjul ruling of 2009. That case is called Augustin Dangam et Kevin Goumet v. La République du Cameroun. And the African Human Rights Court, seated in Banjul, already ruled that the indigenous of the Southern Cameroons are a people with a right to self-determination. We are a people with a right to self-determination. We can seek to go our own way if we choose to. And so our affiliation with French Cameroon is a fraud. The celebration of their Independence Day is a fraud. All their leaders that have been there from Ahijo to Bia have been frauds. Even French Cameroon has never had the opportunity to vote in its own leaders. France went and took this little postal clerk from Northern Cameroon called Amadou Ahidjo, formed a party under him called Union Camerounaise, destroyed the UPC, and installed Ahidjo. And then there, the weakling and underachiever and the diaper-wearing octogenarian from Bululand was shepherded there by France. And that's why I say it was a fraud on French Cameroon and continues to be a fraud on French Cameroon. Because the poor, innocent, but ignorant people of French Cameroon have never even had a chance to select their own leader. That is why the country is a listless ship. That is why people like Bellinga, people like this Minister of Justice, Laurent Esso, are involved in a brutal murder, the killing, the decapitating, the abusing of a journalist in such horrendous ways against the norms and the dictates of any civilized society. Hello? So 11 February continues to be a fraud, not just on Ambazonia, but on French Cameroon, but they are too blinded by Manjunga to realize it.
Okay.
Whew, my patience out coming here, and I know Barrister Ghana really, really have appreciated this your time that you have shared with us, and as we have few minutes, to go, before you leave us, it's been such an educative and enlightening talk, and insights from yourself. Thank you so much once again. And my patience, I don't know if you would like to add anything before I, you know, kind of round up with Barrister Ghana.
No, go ahead and round up with him.
Okay. Okay, Barrister Ghana, just before you have few minutes to go, and I would just like to ask you to talk more on just before you round up, let's talk about our your perspective or what Amazonia should do concerning the AID, the Amazonia Independent Due. Um I would just like you to throw your own opinion, your own view, or your own, weight on why every Amazonia, you have been a member of this interim government, you have played some integral parts in policies, decision making, and in the, one of the, excellent, work you did that I followed from start to finish during the ASSC2. It was extraordinary. Um, you know, and the work that they've been doing, and you've been involved, and you said since the age of 14 you became conscious of the Amazonian freedom quest, and you have stayed the course, and you are on this show that the women have decided that yes, they are staying the course and doing everything. you know what would you say to those watching us concerning the AID?
By the way, before I say something regarding the AID, I want to profoundly compliment, and thank the women of Ambazonia for the heroic job that they have been doing. The women are, in fact, the foundation of this revolution. I watch and I see what you are doing. I see what Dr. Patience Abiedu is doing. I see what Ma I is doing. I see what Ma Rachel is doing. I see what all the Ambazonian women from all the regions in Ambazonia are doing. And I can only say thank God. Because when women invest their effort in something, it's a done deal. So I want to thank and I want to commend the Ambazonian women for the great job that they are doing. Now, talking about the AID, the aid that, or the new website that has just been created, asking for Ambazonians to support, I want to tell you something. There is nothing as sweet as having your own homeland and being a free people in your own homeland. When we're growing up in the 70s and the 80s, you used to see South Africans all over Africa, as refugees here, being hosted here and there. One thing that you would realize in the United States is that maybe for the length of time you've been here in the United States, whoever has been in the United States, you've not run across a South African. That is because they don't have any need to be in the diaspora. They are very comfortable in their own homeland. All of those that were in exile returned home and are enjoying the fruits of good governance. And how is that in relation to what you just said? We are the ones who have to uplift Ambazonia from Ambazonians' bootstraps. We are Ambazonia's bootstraps. And we have to do everything possible in our power to try not to try, to ensure that by all means necessary, Ambazonia becomes free. Hello? We have to have the spirit of Zelensky. When the Russian troops were bearing in, and the White House called Zelensky, and they said, the Russians are coming. We are going to give you a ride. Zelensky said, I don't need a ride. I need arms. I need to stare the bully in the eyes. I need a 2x4 so that I can beat the bully between the eyes. And what have we seen? Russia is paying the price for its aggression. Russia is losing hundreds of thousands of troops. Russia is losing tens of thousands of guns and tanks and planes. Hello? Zelensky stood up. Zelensky symbolized the spirit of Mandela. He symbolized the spirit of George Washington. He symbolized the spirit of Giuseppe Garibaldi, who rounded 1,000 men, 1,000 red shirts, and freed the Italian peninsula. Hello, Ambazonians need to have that same spirit, because one person by one person, one contribution by one contribution, just as Germany is drafting for Ukraine, just as the United States is drafting tens and tens of billions for Ukraine, just as Switzerland and England and Finland and Australia and New Zealand and the rest of the free world, just like they are all drafting for Ukraine. Ambazonians, listen to me. God has, if you're in the diaspora, God has put you in a position to contribute towards defending your people. I always say, if we had let this revolt in the 70s, France would have crushed us and nobody would have known about it. We did not have the era of the cell phone. We did not have as much presence as we have in the diaspora. If we had led this revolt when they changed the name from United Republic of Cameroon to Republic of Cameroon in the 80s, we didn't yet have the cellular link. We did not have this much of a robust presence in the diaspora. If we had led this revolt in 1992, when they stole the election from John Frundi, we could have been crushed. God waited this long. God brought us to the diaspora for a reason, to be the ones we've been waiting for, to be those that will lift up Ambazonia with our own bootstrap. So to all Ambazonians, listen keenly. I know some people are worried about what the FBI is doing, what the forces of law are doing, the intimidation that is being brought in by the judicial courts. Common law and statutory law define self-defense as your right to defend people who, first of all, to defend yourself when you are in an imminent apprehension of bodily harm or injury, and to defend people in proximity to you when they are in imminent apprehension of bodily harm and injury. Just like that judge in court 3 weeks ago in Kansas City during the arraignment of Cheney, recognize that Ukrainians are in an imminent apprehension of bodily harm and injury, and Ukrainians all over the world have that right to raise funds to contribute for the defense of Ukrainians. So do Ambazonians, because people in Manfe, people in Widikum, people in Santa, people in Boya, people in Kwakwa, people in Dian, Lobe, Kumba, Miselele, Bafut, Ngoketunja, Banso, people all over Ambazonia are daily, hourly in an imminent apprehension of bodily harm and injury. And yes, they are in proximity to us. So consistent with the right of self-defense of every individual, consistent with the right of self-defense that is enshrined in common as well as statutory law, Ambazonians have the right to contribute towards the defense of Ambazonians who are in an imminent apprehension of bodily harm and injury. Hello, and I'm speaking to you not as your lawyer. I'm speaking to you from an intellectual level. I'm speaking to you echoing the words of the judge herself in court, who belabored the FBI, asking the FBI to explain to her what is the difference between Ukrainians who are holding fundraising drives, who are contributing monies to buy tanks and bombs and drones to defend themselves against Russia. What is the difference? Why are you hauling these people to court and not hauling the Ukrainians as well? So the aid going towards the defense of our people, going towards helping our refugees, going towards healing our sick, that is our right. And I call on all Ambazonians to support. And I want to shame Ambazonians also who are in the United States. Those who call themselves millionaires, those who are making the millions out there and not supporting the struggle and not supporting our emancipation quest because they think that they don't want to get in trouble. They think that for some reason their status as people with piled up bank accounts makes them different. If you are able to and you're not supporting, shame on you. But to all those who have been supporting, I want to commend them, and I want to ask each and every Ambazonian to rise up and support our emancipation quest, to defend our sovereignty, to emancipate us from the brutal grips of La République and France, and to make sure that our children will come from, will belong to, and will live in a free land. Long live Ambazonia. Long live the people of the erstwhile Southern Cameroons. Long live our sovereignty, and we shall prevail. Thank you very much, comrade.
Wow. Thank you so much. My patience, over to you.
Yeah, it looks like there's another question coming for Barrister Ghana before he leaves. I think uh, I just saw a comment. I don't know whether he's able to call. I think it's Director Paddy wanted to call, ask Dr. Ghana a question about kidnapping.
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yes,
Okay,
but there's an echo in the background.
let me work on it. Okay, you can hear me now clearly, I believe.
Correct.
Yes.
Yeah, thank you very much. Barrister Ghana, you have been impressive as usual, even though I am I'm not surprised with your rhetoric and everything you said. You've said two things of major concern, but because of your time, I know you're a busy person. I like to focus on one. And this has to do with kidnapping. You're clear with the injunctions, international as well as it should be local, that kidnapping in any shape and or form is a crime. Now, our argument, which the president has made in his statements a couple of times, especially relating to the situation in Gakitunja, that some would want to call as kidnapping, he's saying that is the true owners of the land are implementing laws that the restoration forces are implementing. And during the wartime, we understand how chaotic it could be. How do we, using policy, distinguish between a situation that should or can be considered kidnapping, especially if it is based on implementing the fact that people will have to meet up with their basic civic duty of sponsoring or enabling or enabling the struggle financially. How do we distinguish? This education is important for our people. How do we distinguish between kidnapping and for ransom taking and arrest by the restoration forces to implement the laws of the land? I'd like you to say that before we even get into the AID for citizens or the Amazonian independence dues.
Paddy, thank you for that question. The first thing I want to say in response to that question is that always remember that a charge in law or under criminal law is an allegation. The fact that they charge you for something does not mean you did it. And the fact that they charge you for something does not mean that they can prove the elements of that charge. You know, sometimes, for example, they have murder 1, murder 2, murder 3. For each of those crimes or felonies, there are elements that you have to prove beyond reasonable doubt in front of a jury of your peers. Or if they say assault and battery or burglary, entering into the person's home at night with the purpose to steal, you have to prove all the elements of that charge. So sometimes we are running too much and too fast to address or defend a charge that the prosecution has not provided evidence, nor has the prosecution been able to thoroughly establish that charge in a court of law. So in amongst lawyers, we have something that we say a district attorney can even indict a sandwich. A district attorney can indict anybody for anything, but whether they can prove the elements of that indictment is totally something else. And again, I have said this over and over, and I want to take this opportunity to reiterate it to Ambazonians. You are in the United States. You have constitutional rights. We have something in the United States called the Bill of Rights. The Fifth Amendment of the United States Constitution, amongst the Bill of Rights, gives you the right against self-incrimination. It protects you from having your property, your assets, your domicile, your person being searched by any member of the forces of law without a properly executed warrant or without a proper probable cause. So, if anybody shows up to your house and says, "Hey, Mr. Ngwasiri, I'm an FBI, or I'm an Indiana Metropolitan Police, and I've heard something about you, and I need to come in and search," the first question you need to ask is, where's your search warrant? Where's your properly executed search warrant? And a search warrant has to be signed by a judge or a magistrate. Where is your search warrant? If they don't have a search warrant, then you have to ask them another question. What is your probable cause? Have you heard a gunshot from my bedroom, or has somebody run out of my house screaming they are killing somebody in there? And there are some elements that meet what they call in law probable cause. For example, if a police stops you for driving at 75 miles an hour in a 55-mile zone, they can only give you a ticket. They can take your ID, but they cannot tell you to open your trunk. They stopped you for speeding, but they cannot then go search your trunk, or they cannot open your glove compartment, because that is a search not allowed by law. So even if a policeman stops you and wants to search your car, just ask them a simple question. What is your probable cause? Or they want to search your computer, or they want to search your phone. Always ask them, what is your probable cause and where is your search warrant? And remember, most policemen these days have a camera running. As you're asking them, that camera is recording it. And if they search your property without a properly executed search warrant and without a probable cause that is accepted by law, all of that evidence is going to be thrown out in a court of law, because it violates the United States Constitution, it violates the Fifth Amendment of the United States Constitution, and it violates your rights as a citizen. So while we worry about these charges, let's also understand how to protect ourselves with the laws of the land that are enshrined in the United States Constitution that was promulgated in 1791, that has stayed strong to this day. So I'm not going to get into the weeds of why people want to take people for ransom and how they want to define it. As a trained lawyer and speaking at a very intellectual level, I would say there is no need for us to kidnap, and there's no need for us to bring duress to civilians on the ground. I said it yesterday, I'll say it today, I'll say it tomorrow. And if we are serious, if we work hard enough, if we sensitize people enough, we have enough funds that we can raise in the diaspora to support our struggling people. And if we do not have people like Chris Anu, who are allegedly stealing money from the revolution, will not need to be bringing harm and duress to civilians on the ground to extract a few francs from them. So, again, as a trained lawyer, speaking at an intellectual level, rendering a legal opinion, I would tell you there are a lot of ways to fund this revolution and fund it effectively without bringing duress to civilians on the ground.
Wow.
Yes, thank you very
Thank
much, but I think I'm done with the questions. I appreciate. As we get on to AID, please permit me, ladies, let everybody just look on the bottom of the screen. The website and payment platforms are there. Do not also forget to ask them to donate for ABC Amba TV. We want everybody watching to be a club member. If you're not a part of the ABC Amba TV club, use this opportunity to subscribe so you can always have Barrister Ghana and others. Keep us on the air with your subscription. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much to all of you, and it was an honor and a pleasure being here and moving the ball again of our restoration case forward. Yep.
Thank you so much,
Thank you.
Barrister.
Thank you for your time. Thank you so
All
much,
right.
Barrister Ghana. We hope to have you again because there's just so much more to tap into from that, your, wealth of knowledge and experience and exposure, from home front to international law and an application of law both in defense and in protection. I really, really appreciate your insights, and I can tell our viewers have learned a lot because I can read some of their comments on Facebook. We really thank you. More patience. I would continue the show.
Yeah, I think we are winding up, so I'll probably just make my closing remarks before you end the show by mentioning that maybe we don't know, but tomorrow, February 11th, is the International Day of Women and Girls in Science. So February 11th, although it's an infamous day in our history, it's also a very great day for women and girls in science. And I just want to make this remark based on what is going on, that we know that our society, especially African societies, are really patriarchal in nature, where women and girls do not really have as much opportunities as men. However, as the years have gone by, we see that a lot of our young girls and women are going to school, and some of them are more interested in the sciences than in the past. This year, the Secretary General of the United Nations has this to say, and I quote, "We can all do our part to unleash our world's enormous untapped talent, starting with filling classrooms, laboratories, and boardrooms with women scientists." And the theme for this year's day is innovate, demonstrate, elevate, advance, and sustain. So when you put that together, it means ideas. Innovate, demonstrate, elevate, advance, and sustain. So, so we want women and girls to continue to play critical roles in the sciences and the technology, and so we should encourage participation. We are giving special information to our girls in neighboring La République du Cameroon, in our girls and women in the refugee camps in Nigeria and other parts of the world, that do not give up. Continue to be interested in the sciences. If you like the sciences, don't think that because you're a girl or a woman, you have to do something that is traditionally left for women, like the arts mainly. If you like the sciences, go for it. So as we just round up this show, I just wanted to encourage all of you, young women and girls, that the future is bright, regardless of where you find yourself today, if you put your mind to it. Lady Casey, thank you for having me here today. And take home message: stay home tomorrow, 11 February, and look forward to a show that the interim government has tomorrow. We will have a very long program tomorrow at 8 p.m. Amba time. Please stay tuned to join, because the government will be talking more about 11 February, the fraud of 11 February, and also we will be commemorating some of the atrocities that have happened in our land, the Gabu massacre and other massacres that have happened. We will have a ceremony tomorrow to memorialize all those that have gone ahead of us. So please, if you're watching right now, there will be a link that will be shared tomorrow for you to join and be part of the program. Or also you may decide to watch on ABC. Okay? So long live the Federal Republic of Ambazonia, short live the struggle, and stay home tomorrow, 11th February. Thank you so much.
Well, thank you, Mafe, for that great roundup. And I'll just take this opportunity to thank all our viewers, both those at home front and those in the diaspora. Thank you for joining us on the Horizon. See you next week, Friday, same time. Bye-bye.
On ABC Amba TV. You are watching The Horizon, the voice of the Amba woman, exclusively on ABC Amba TV. Some Boy Records.
Welcome to me.
Magical Hakeem on the beats.
Lesson no to tribalism, nepotism. Lesson no to bad energy. I'll embrace some love. To the cloud, to the one, let us live in harmony. Bongo mozeo, oshe mozeo, bonge mozeo, umubiri etamno. Bongo mozeo, oshe mozeo, mameta mozeo. Nepotism, lesson no to bad energy, and embrace some love. To the cloud, to the one, let us live in harmony. Love, 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 love is all we need.
Magical Hakeem on the beats.
Love, 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 love is all we need. Bongo mozeo, oshe mozeo, bonge mozeo, umubiri etamno.
Sample Records.
Welcome to me.
You are watching The Horizon. The voice of the Amba woman. Exclusively on ABC Amba TV.
Wisdom for the Ambazonian Quest with Bridget Muyang Fielding. Wisdom is the principal thing, therefore get wisdom, and with all thy getting, get understanding. King Solomon, Proverbs 4:7, KJV.
And if any man think that he knoweth anything, he knoweth nothing, yet as he ought to know. Apostle Paul, 1 Corinthians 8 verse 2.
We are only as wise as our awareness of our ignorance. The only true wisdom is knowing you know nothing. Socrates/Plato. This wisdom is the altar of humility and success.
There is no wisdom for a nation at war to sink its own gunboat. It weakens diplomacy, is tantamount to capitulation and defeat. That is exactly what some so-called Amazonian leaders have done, asking fighters to keep low for whatever reason. This is surrender wisdom, and it has delayed progress for 2 years. Bridget Muyang Fielding.
Wisdom for the Ambazonian Quest with Bridget Muyang Fielding. Wisdom is the principal thing, therefore get wisdom, and with all thy getting, get understanding. King Solomon, Proverbs 4:7, KJV.
And if any man think that he knoweth anything, he knoweth nothing, yet as he ought to know. Apostle Paul, 1 Corinthians 8 verse 2.
We are only as wise as our awareness of our ignorance. The only true wisdom is knowing you know nothing. Socrates/Plato. This wisdom is the altar of humility and success.
There is no wisdom for a nation at war to sink its own gunboat. It weakens diplomacy, is tantamount to capitulation and defeat. That is exactly what some so-called Amazonian leaders have done, asking fighters to keep low for whatever reason. This is surrender wisdom, and it has delayed progress for 2 years. Bridget Muyang Fielding.
Friday 10th to Saturday 11th February 2023 Anno Dominis, total lockdown of the territory of Ambazonia. On the orders of the Commander-in-Chief and President of the Federal Republic of Ambazonia, His Excellency Dr. Samuel Sako Ikomi, Ambazonian Resistance Forces nationwide have taken measures to implement a 2 days perfect lockdown of the Ambazonian territory. This within the framework of the Ambazonian Crusade for Justice, Liberty, Dignity, Freedom and Unconditional Independence for Ambazonia and the Ambazonian people. The Ambazonian people slammed the international conspiracy dubbed a plebiscite, by which 62 years ago, France, through her proxy government of French Cameroon, annexed and recolonized the already self-governing territory and people of the British Southern Cameroon, now Ambazonia. And the people of Ambazonia for over 5 decades and counting have been coerced to celebrate 11 February, the day they became slaves. Those days of ignominy and infamy are over. 10th to 11th February 2023, The entire territory of Ambazonia is completely shut down. No movement of cars, motorcycles, bicycles, tricycles, and even pedestrians, save for ambulances in cases of medical emergencies. All bars, off licenses, shops, schools, stores, garages, and business premises are completely shut down. All persons, citizens, and foreigners living within the Amazonian territory are staying indoors. These 2 days, 10th and 11th February 2023, will mark a significant turning point in the Amazonian War of Independence. And we do underscore the fact that all civilians, all persons living within the Amazonian territory should stay indoors and not take the risk of going outside. Because the bloodiest and greatest battles ever fought since the brain-dead dictator Paul Biya of French Cameroon declared the genocidal war in 2017 are still about to begin. Our restoration forces are trigger ready to water more than ever before the Amazonian tree of freedom and liberty with the blood of the La Republic of Cameroon terrorist soldiers and traitors and enablers who might attempt to disrespect the national lockdown. Because the Amazonian Restoration Forces ARF shall make no distinction between the La Republic of Cameroon forces of terror and mass murder and those who foster their evil agenda and evil enterprise on the Amazonian territory. All persons, groups of persons, dance groups, choirs, etc., attempting to gather anywhere and celebrate or plan to celebrate 62 years of our captivity will not only be gunned down as collateral damage, but as legitimate targets. So in the words of sacred scripture, I am now giving you the choice between life and death, between God's blessings and God's curse. And I call heaven and earth to witness the choice you make. Victory is sure. Friday 10th to Saturday 11th February 2023 Anno Dominis, total lockdown of the territory of Ambazonia. On the orders of the Commander-in-Chief and President of the Federal Republic of Ambazonia, His Excellency Dr. Samuel Sako Ikomi, Ambazonia Restoration Forces nationwide have taken measures to implement a 2 days perfect lockdown of the Amazonian territory. This within the framework of the Amazonian Crusade for Justice, Liberty, Dignity, Freedom and Unconditional Independence for Ambazonia and the Amazonian people. The Amazonian people slammed the international conspiracy dubbed a plebiscite, by which 62 years ago, France, through her proxy government of French Cameroon, annexed and recolonized the already self-governing territory and people of the British Southern Cameroon, now Ambazonia. And the people of Ambazonia for over 5 decades and counting have been coerced to celebrate 11 February, the day they became slaves. Those days of ignominy and infamy are over. 10th to 11th February 2023, the entire territory of Ambazonia is completely shut down. No movement of cars, motorcycles, bicycles, tricycles, and even pedestrians, save for ambulances in cases of medical emergencies. All bars, off licenses, shops, schools, stores, garages, and business premises are completely shut down. all persons, citizens, and foreigners living within the Amazonian territory are staying indoors. These 2 days, 10th and 11th February 2023, will mark a significant turning point in the Amazonian War of Independence. And we do underscore the fact that all civilians, all persons living within the Amazonian territory should stay indoors and not take the risk of going outside. Because the bloodiest and greatest battles ever fought since the brain-dead dictator Paul Biya of French Cameroon declared the genocidal war in 2017 are still about to begin. Our restoration forces are trigger ready to water more than ever before the Amazonian tree of freedom and liberty with the blood of the La Republic of Cameroon terrorist soldiers and traitors and enablers who might attempt to disrespect the national lockdown. Because the Amazonian Restoration Forces ARF shall make no distinction between the La Republic of Cameroon forces of terror and mass murder and those who foster their evil agenda and evil enterprise on the Amazonian territory. All persons, groups of persons, dance groups, choirs, etc., attempting to gather anywhere and celebrate or plan to celebrate 62 years of our captivity will not only be gunned down as collateral damage, but as legitimate targets. So in the words of sacred scripture, I am now giving you the choice between life and death, between God's blessings and God's curse. And I call heaven and earth to witness the choice you make. Victory is sure. Friday 10th to Saturday 11th February 2023 Anno Dominis, total lockdown of the territory of Ambazonia. On the orders of the Commander-in-Chief and President of the Federal Republic of Ambazonia, His Excellency Dr. Samuel Sako Ikomi, Amazonian Restoration Forces nationwide have taken measures to implement a 2 days perfect lockdown of the Amazonian territory. This within the framework of the Amazonian Crusade for Justice, Liberty, Dignity, Freedom and Unconditional Independence for Ambazonia and the Amazonian people. The Amazonian people slammed the international conspiracy dubbed a plebiscite, by which 62 years ago, France, through her proxy government of French Cameroon, annexed and recolonized the already self-governing territory and people of the British Southern Cameroon, now Ambazonia. And the people of Ambazonia for over 5 decades and counting have been coerced to celebrate 11 February, the day they became slaves. Those days of ignominy and infamy are over. 10th to 11th February 2023, the entire territory of Amazonia is completely shut down. No movement of cars, motorcycles, bicycles, tricycles, and even pedestrians, save for ambulances in cases of medical emergencies. All bars, off licenses, shops, schools, stores, garages, and business premises are completely shut down. All persons, citizens, and foreigners living within the Amazonian territory are staying indoors. These 2 days, 10th and 11th February 2023, will mark a significant turning point in the Amazonian War of Independence. And we do underscore the fact that all civilians, all persons living within the Amazonian territory should stay indoors and not take the risk of going outside, because the bloodiest and greatest battles ever fought since the brain-dead dictator Paul Biya of French Cameroon declared the genocidal war in 2017 are still about to begin. Our resolution forces are trigger ready to water more than ever before the Ambazonian tree of freedom and liberty with the blood of the La République of Cameroon terrorist soldiers and traitors and enablers who might attempt to disrespect the national lockdown. Because the Ambazonian Resistance Forces ARF shall make no distinction between the La République of Cameroon forces of terror and mass murder and those who foster their evil agenda and evil enterprise on the Ambazonian territory. All persons, groups of persons, dance groups, choirs, etc., attempting to gather anywhere and celebrate or plan to celebrate 62 years of our captivity will not only be gunned down as collateral damage, but as legitimate targets. So in the words of sacred scripture, I am now giving you the choice between life and death, between God's blessings and God's curse. And I call heaven and earth to witness the choice you make. Victory is sure. Friday 10th to Saturday 11th February 2023 Anno Domini, total lockdown of the territory of Ambazonia. On the orders of their Commander-in-Chief and President of the Federal Republic of Ambazonia, His Excellency Dr. Samuel Sako Ikomi, Ambazonian Resistance Forces nationwide have taken measures to implement a 2-day perfect lockdown of the Ambazonian territory. This within the framework of the Ambazonian Crusade for Justice, Liberty, Dignity, Freedom and unconditional independence for Ambazonia and the Ambazonian people. The Ambazonian people slammed the international conspiracy dubbed a plebiscite, by which 62 years ago, France, through her proxy government of French Cameroon, annexed and recolonized the already self-governing territory and people of the British Southern Cameroon, now Ambazonia. And the people of Ambazonia for over 5 decades and counting have been coerced to celebrate 11 February, the day they became slaves. Those days of ignominy and infamy are over. 10th to 11th February 2023, the entire territory of Ambazonia is completely shut down. Non-pedestrians, save for ambulances in cases of medical emergencies. All bars, off-licenses, shops, schools, stores, garages, and business premises are completely shut down. All persons, citizens, and foreigners living within the Ambazonian territory are staying indoors. These 2 days, 10th and 11th February 2023, will mark a significant turning point in the Ambazonian War of Independence. And we do underscore the fact that all civilians, all persons living within the Ambazonian territory should stay indoors and not take the risk of going outside. Because the bloodiest and greatest battles ever fought since the brain-dead dictator Paul Biya of French Cameroon declared the genocidal war in 2017 are still about to begin. Our resolution forces are trigger ready to water more than ever before the Ambazonian tree of freedom and liberty with the blood of the La République du Cameroon terrorist soldiers and traitors and enablers who might attempt to disrespect the national lockdown. Because the Ambazonian Resistance Forces ARF shall make no distinction between the La République du Cameroon forces of terror and mass murder and those who foster their evil agenda and evil enterprise on the Ambazonian territory. All persons, groups of persons, dance groups, choirs, etc., attempting to gather anywhere and celebrate or plan to celebrate 62 years of our captivity will not only be gunned down as collateral damage, but as legitimate targets. So in the words of sacred scripture, I am now giving you the choice between life and death, between God's blessings and God's curse. And I call heaven and earth to witness the choice you make. Victory is sure. Friday 10th to Saturday 11th February 2023 Anno Dominis, total lockdown of the territory of Ambazonia. On the orders of the Commander-in-Chief and President of the Federal Republic of Ambazonia, His Excellency Dr. Samuel Sako Ikomi,